let's go. Welcome everyone to the MovieFlex podcast, the podcast where your hosts flex their knowledge or lack thereof of a pair of movies every week. I'm one of your hosts, Estebs. I'm here with your other host, Matt, aka the Posting Pro. Matt, how you doing?
They're good, bro. How are you?
Great, man. It's the summer of movies.
The summer of movies, indeed. We have a lot of double features for you guys. We try and recommend things that we either haven't seen or haven't seen in a long time. And I haven't seen either of these movies that you recommended. So, Stubbs, what did you recommend we watch this week?
Okay, so for this week, the theme is Dudes Rock. Our films are 1974, Robert Altman's classic California Split, starring George Segal and Elliot Gould. After that, we got 1976, Elaine May's classic, Mikey and Nicky, starring John Cassavetes and Peter Falk. Before we get to those, though, I saw you were very active on Twitter this weekend.
Yes.
You went to see a lot of movies. I told you that I would apologize on podcasts. I am very much like a week 2 or 3 person when it comes to like stuff that's in theaters. Especially recently, like COVID totally fucked up any like remaining movie going habits I had. I apologize. I'm part of the problem. I get it. Like, and look, sometimes I buy tickets to movies and I don't get a refund, but I also don't go. I literally, and that's not a lie. Like, I literally have done that many times because I do believe in supporting movies. But, I've got like just some personal stuff and, it's not the vibe right now for me personally, but you have been very active. The fact that you go and see movies on week 1 is going to make me go and see movies on week 1 now so that I don't end up in this situation again where I'm groveling and talking about what a bad movie fan I am. But you're a great movie fan. You saw The Northman, you saw the new Nicolas Cage movie, and I'm dying to know, what did you think?
Okay, so The Northman definitely was a contentious film that I saw amongst my friend group. Now, funny story, I accidentally bought 2 tickets to The Northman. I missed the first showing because as we said on MovieFlex, double features, I was flexing those muscles, not the movie muscles, but the actual muscles at the gym. And I was like, oh, I completely missed my showtime. So I went to a later showing that night with The Northman. I absolutely loved it. I posted on Twitter. I said I don't want to say that this is the greatest movie ever made, but I'm not saying it's not. It was very well done. I thought, for Robert Eggers to say that he had a lot of studio interference with this movie, he had a lot of editorial control taken out of his hands. He apparently had a bad time making this movie. He likes the movie. Obviously, he's not going to, crap on his own movie. Mm-hmm. It's a great addition to the Robert Eggers canon. It's his 3rd film. It's beautiful. The set pieces are great. It's probably the most visually interesting movie I've seen this year. I started this year a running list of my favorite movies ranked, and this is my favorite movie that I've seen this year so far. So that's The Northman, at least.
All right, yeah, no, because I love Eggers. I'm not stoked that it apparently didn't make a bunch of money at the box office. I would have loved it to be number 1 and been a huge smash. But yeah, it's like I definitely know I'm gonna like it. Like I'm gonna see it tomorrow or whatever. I'm gonna like. It looks awesome. Like I love like just the idea, like a Viking revenge story. It's very simple. It's very like old school, but like I don't know, like I guess the performances I've heard are really strong, especially Nicole Kidman.
Yes. Nicole Kidman's great in it. She's one of the best parts. Anya Taylor-Joy, that is my current favorite actor director combo, because I like the passion that like the thing about actors and directors like who work together a lot, I really like the passion like between them, like the completely platonic, like he described her. They asked him why he puts her in movies, and he's like, she has like a very like ethereal quality to her
Yeah.
acting and to her look, but also she's like very grounded. And he's like,
Mhm.
most of my characters kind of need that. And she came out on the press junket for the Northman, and they asked her why she wasn't in the lighthouse, and she was like, "Well, I begged him to put me in the lighthouse." And she was like, "I heard there's a mermaid." He's
Yeah,
like, "You
yeah.
don't." He's like, "You don't want to play this mermaid. It's the only like female part in the movie." And he's like, "She goes, well, I don't care. Put me as a seagull in the background. I want to be in this movie."
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that story, and that's what I was gonna say. Like when you mentioned about like the passion, like yeah, she seems like one of those people who just like loves to work with him. Like, reminds me of I'm gonna get it wrong because I always mix up my Naomi's, but is it Naomi Watts who does the flinch? Flinch. Yo. Okay,
David
hold
Lit.
on. No, time out, time out. Okay, everyone, record that, screen cap it, post it on YouTube, make fun of me. It's embarrassing as fuck, but I'm trying to get engagement up. I just called him David Flinch. That was actually my nickname in high school because people would kick my ass, so I was always flinching. I also have severe OCD, which is actually okay. So the OCD part is real, but they didn't actually call me David Flinch. But yeah, it's David Finch and Naomi Watts, right? Like Mulholland Drive, and like she was in Twin Peaks or whatever. It reminds me of that. Like she has that very like pretty like Anya Taylor-Joy, and I mean this in the nicest way possible. I'm a fellow spicy Latina myself, you know, so like I fully support her. But she does like I totally get what you're saying or what he's saying because like she looks like an alien, and again a beautiful alien. Like I want to marry her. She's
Oh, she's
beautiful.
gorgeous. Like the thing is,
Yeah,
like
but like
when
she
Queens,
looks, you know what I mean? Like she looks like she has this very like Bjork '90s music video look, like this very like weird alien look. But
she's
but
she's
like as you said, it in every interview I've ever heard her or seen her in, she's always been like the most completely like down to earth, like very like relatable, like you know again they're actors, who knows if it's all an act, I don't know her personally, but she definitely sells it well. Like I personally don't think she's being disingenuous. Like she like you said, I believe him when he says that she's down to earth because she definitely comes off that way.
yeah, she's conventionally, like the thing is she's conventionally attractive, right? But she's like conventionally Hollywood attractive, right? So it's like a different kind of quality. You're not like
Yeah.
when the Queen's Gambit came out and everyone was like, I don't know, like she's pretty hot, you know, and I was like, yeah, of course. Like she's gorgeous. Like that's the thing is she's gorgeous, but she's like, you know, the best actors, and the directors bring this out in their performances and in like just them on screen. They kind of have like a weird quality to them,
Yeah.
right? And that's
I
something that Anya Taylor Joy, she has like a definitive weirdness to her. But she's, you know, obviously there's no hate here. We're big
Oh
Anya
yeah,
Taylor
no,
Joy
no,
fans.
no. We're like we mean this. I mean this in the nicest way possible because like I had a friend. He still lives in LA. He worked at like a pretty popular like kind of cafe spot. I don't want to say where it was, but like he had like famous people in there all the time, and we had this conversation about like with another friend of his about how like the thing about like really like A-list movie stars or like models is that like it's not that they're just attractive, it's that they have something like they look kind of off, like, and again I
Yeah.
mean this, and I got picked on in high school because I would like cover my binder in like pictures of models that I found in magazines, and they would all have like alien looking heads and like you know, crooked teeth, and like again this is what I love, like I mean this, and so I'm like I'm trying to say it's like flatteringly, but yeah, like Ryan Gosling, I remember meeting him, like they all have really really famous people, like really really good looking people. I like if you when you see them up close you're like, oh yeah, like they're hot, but like there's something like a little off, you know what I mean? They're not like cookie cutter.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. They definitely have some weird, you know, weird quality about them, and she kind of like very much personifies that. But yeah, I just to kind of wrap it up, I really enjoyed that. I also saw the Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, the new Nicolas Cage joint, right? The comedy about Nick Cage, and he's like hired to go to a party, and it's like he gets recruited by the CIA as a secret agent, and It was good. Like the main takeaway from it that I had was I was like, wow, they need to make more comedies. I was just like,
Yeah.
they need to have like more original comedies. There's a lot of meta comedy in it.
Mhm.
But I do have to say it's a slow burn to start, right? Like it's a very slow, like, okay, like I don't know if I like this type of movie. And then I actually I had a good time with my buddy, towards the end. So that's basically my review of the new Nicolas Cage, my very short review of the new Nicolas Cage movie.
Yeah, no, that's did you hear the story that one of the backups that they had in case they couldn't get Cage to play himself were the backups were Christian Bale and Daniel Day-Lewis, supposedly?
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I thought
Like
DDL was retired.
yeah, anyone can say that about like, oh yeah, I was gonna put Daniel Day-Lewis in my next movie, but
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they
like
kind
anyone
of.
can say that. But the Christian Bale one, I actually believe because like I could definitely see Christian Bale playing Nicolas Cage. Like
Yeah.
I can it just I picture it very easily. He has the gate kind of like imagine him in his Dick Cheney makeup, but with like a beard and like oh man, Bale would just like oh man, he would like savor at the chance to play like a true legend, man. Like what is Nick Cage like refers to his acting as neo kabuki or something like that. Ah
Oh,
man,
he neo shamanism. Yeah.
okay, yeah, neo
His
shamanism kabuki
his,
theater. Like yeah, okay.
his neo shamanic acting. He was like, it was great because there's a lot of like name drops too, which was interesting. It's not. It's like, because like every movie now has to have like. I know that, like as a whatever, but like in this one, he's talking about it's kind of Cassavetes-esque. We could go ahead and do Bergman. He's like Bergman, like he's just naming all like, and it's not like talking about Thanos or whatever. So it's pretty refreshing. So
That's it.
yeah, so it was a good movie. I'd recommend to go see it. Support comedy as much as you can, because the mid budget comedy is definitely dying. So
Yeah, the only other comedy I can remember this year, I was gonna say the Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum one. I know didn't do so high.
yeah, that was kind of like a rom com type situation. It
The
was kind of.
oh, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's kind of like a rom com thing. So it's a little, there's a little bit of there's an overlap there, obviously, right, for audiences,
Yeah,
but also like, you know, how many
yeah.
middle aged moms are going to the theater to go see a Sandra Bullock vehicle anymore?
I don't think it's like a rom com not targeted toward younger people. Like, but they're always gonna take the wrong lessons. It's like when Morbius bombed, they were like instead of being like somebody tweeted this about like wow instead of being like people hate Jared Leto they're like oh I guess people don't like vampires anymore. It's like what like
Yeah,
people when do people not like vampires? Obviously it's not
dude.
that
So
people love vampires.
yeah, exactly. Like Robert Eggers said, he's been trying to make this Nosferatu movie forever, and he said on the WTF podcast with Mark Maron that it's dead. So it's like,
Yeah, that was the week after Morbius bombed too.
let's let's get off this subject.
Yeah.
We need
No,
to talk
yeah.
about some old
No,
movies that you
yeah.
picked.
I love Hollywood Corner, man. Honestly, I love current events. It literally is the first time we've ever done it, but I love the segment. Like I said, if like Anya Taylor Joy, marry me, work with me, be my friend. You're welcome to on the pod anytime you like. If this gets to you, we can talk about like growing up in Latino, whatever. I mean, I'm not a Latino. I'm a Latino. I say I'm a Latina for comedic purposes.
Yeah, exactly. So
All
you
right,
want to go ahead and get to
yeah.
the movies we did today?
So let's get to these movies. First movie because I'm dying to know what you think. Like I know that you like saw The Northman, and I saw that you tweeted that you liked it. I literally have no idea what you thought of either of these movies though. But first movie number one, Robert Altman's California Split, starring Elliot Gould, George Siegel from 1974. I saw Vulture.com named it the greatest movie about gambling ever. I
Yes.
don't know what year that was, but yeah, so the reason I picked these movies, basically, like I said, it's dudes rock, kind of tongue in cheek though, because Elaine May is the auteur of one of them, and she's like a great female writer director who's like being rediscovered recently, partially because of this movie being released in 2019. I can talk about this movie all day. I will. But I'm dying to know, what did you think about California Split?
So, California Split. It was the first Altman I've ever seen. I've never seen
Yeah,
another Altman. Film Twitter talks about him constantly. So I was
I love him.
excited.
Yeah.
I was excited to see it. You actually, before we started the podcast, uh, before we even had the idea of a podcast, you recommended I watch Nashville. I still have not yet Nashville. So I've seen now, because I watched California Split, and because I'm like in the middle of the long goodbye, I paused it, before the pod. So I've seen approximately 1.5 Altmans. Uh,
Okay.
and so for California Split, though, yes, I saw that Vulture thing. It said it was the best movie made about gambling. This is a movie that's definitely a vibes movie. I have to say
Yeah, yeah.
that out the gate. This is another instance too. Spoilers for, again, like on the pod we discussed. We spoil the hell out of these movies just out the gate. So this is another movie, much like The Age of Innocence, where I believe that the ending
Mm.
is the thing that makes the movie. I don't believe
Yep.
that with every movie. I have to throw that out there. I do
No,
not believe that with every.
yeah,
But
spoiler alert, real quickly. Yeah, I was like, wow, is that like 3 movies out of 4 that I could? Spoiler alert for later, but I could say that about, about 3 of the 4 movies we've discussed so far.
yeah, so this is one of them. Again, that's not a criticism of like the movie as a whole, because you kind of, obviously you can't divorce the ending from the end product of the movie. I I think with these two movies in particular, I like the hanging out, the kind of like it's just two guys, chilling, like smoking cigarettes, hanging out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, with California Split, it's about gambling. One of the it's mainly one guy's almost like a professional gambler, right? And then Bill, he is kind of like a gambler addict light, and then kind of gets into gambling more as he hangs out,
That's me
right?
and you, dude. I'm Elliot Gould. I'm like, I'm making your movie addiction worse. I'm
Yeah.
introducing you
So
to the harder shit, dude. They do have a great dynamic though, right? Like, cause I like
you
my
you
my
did
my my, my favorite part of the movie is they're just them two, like their dynamic or whatever.
you did say you were like you're definitely, what was the actor's name? I don't,
Oh,
God,
George Siegel and Elliot
George
Gould.
Siegel. You said
Yeah.
I'm more of the George Siegel, and I can definitely see it. I really
Mhm.
did identify with that character. Him blowing
Yeah.
off work was like, oh shit, that's me, like in a nutshell, from working from home now. And you're like, you're working, you're trying to work in the industry, and you have seen like uh, a lot more movies than I have. So yeah, so when I talk to you, I just immediately get hooked and go, I need to see everything, and like
Yeah.
I blow off work too to
No, and I'm also like a very much like a vibes over plot person. Like in my own writing, I know that in order to like make it, like, you need to have like very like explicit structure, and like, here's the A plot and the B plot, and here's all of the parts that you're expecting, and it's gotten even more like burned down to its essence over the years, where like a lot of movies, it's like if they don't conform specifically to a very Hollywood style of movie, audiences are going to reject it. People who
Mhm.
make movies are going to say it's not good. They're not even going to make it. Like kind of have to have a very like American blockbuster way of writing movies, and that's what I love about both of these movies, is that neither of them is that way. Like neither of them is diluted down to its essence. You know what I'm saying? It's straight up like it's vibes. They're kind of wandery. They're like the stories kind of meander. Like, but there's just times like there's just, did you like it overall?
Yeah,
Like
I
what
would
would be
say
your
if we had to rank it, I would say that it gets 3.5 stars
Yeah.
for me. I thought, and again, like I'm going to be absolutely crucified because I saw one guy say this was his favorite Altman. So
Dude, yeah, all like both of the movies you tweeted, some I saw tweets underneath them being of people being like, "Oh, this is my favorite movie ever," and like we're in a group chat that literally one of the people it was like, "Oh, I joined this because my friend said it was the closest to Altman chat that he's seen." So, because you gotta talk about this in chat, you gotta be like, "Yeah, I thought it was okay," because they're
yeah,
gonna,
so
yeah,
I listen. I'm not. I agree with you with regards to vibes. I rate movies based off of vibes, right? I
yeah,
do. Because like I think a lot of the criticisms that are labeled at movies are like, oh, like everyone's trying to figure out. I mean, that like Lights Camera Jackson tweet about everything everywhere all at once, where he's like, I
yeah.
figured
People are
out the
trying to be
plot.
smarter than movies. Somebody
I,
said that, not me. That's not my original thought. So, but I'm
Yeah,
trying
he's
to.
like, I figured out the plot. It's like, well, the plot's not something you're supposed to figure out. You're just supposed to kind of
Yeah.
vibe with it. And that's the thing about like this movie and the other movie we watched. It was very much vibes heavy. I tell you what, like this is what's crazy. There are moments in the movie. This is why I thought it was good, right? There are
Mm.
moments in the movie where I'm like, the vibes are impeccable, right? The bar scene is bizarre. Like when they go to the bar initially when they first
Man,
meet
dude,
is bizarre and great. It's
I specifically okay.
incredible.
I want to stop for a second because I specifically yeah the scene where they're trying to name the doors and George Siegel's like itchy scratchy doc and he goes that's four and he's like no it's three and he's like oh like
He's like,
I
I could.
love
He goes. I can name them right now. Itchy, Doc, Grumpy, Scratchy. He's like, how many was that?
yeah. No, I love and then they start singing the racist crow song. Like he's like, Oh, you're a minstrel or whatever. Like there are definitely some problematic 70s moments, which like I totally forgot about. Like I tend not to remember those things. But yeah, I want you to continue, but I just wanted to specifically talk about that scene because yeah, they're just like too drunk, they're hanging out at the bar, and they're just like it's not even dialogue really. Like I don't even know.
You don't even know what they say half the time because there's
Yeah,
literally a part where.
most of the time, yeah.
So this is what I love. Like, so these older movies, right? This is what I love about older movies, especially like you don't have to like worry about like making sure the audience gets everything right.
Mm.
Is like used to or like now sound mixing is so bad that it's like well it's not bad but like there are movies that have really bad sound mixing where you're like what did they just say and like
Yeah.
they're the only people speaking right but like there's a chaos in that scene where I'm pretty sure I don't know what she is, but I think she's a hooker because she's just like sitting on a table and she has
Oh,
like
yeah, her
nothing
ass is
on.
out, yeah.
Her ass is out and she has her button up
Yeah,
unbuttoned, no bra. And she
yeah,
goes over to borrow $30 from the thing like the thing and the bros, right? They're sitting there
mm,
talking and they're drunk as hell and you can't hear a word that they're saying because she's talking to like the bartender at the same time.
yeah. She's trying to
And
get
it's
money
like
for her friend, yeah, or she's trying to
for
get
her
money from the
mom.
bar. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and then I guess her mom's a drug addict. But like what's crazy, like this is what I'm saying about the vibes. That doesn't come back at all. Like she's not a character in the movie. It's just like a random thing that happens in this bar just to show like
yeah,
how shitty this bar is, right? And then he
yeah,
tells her like, "Hey, don't sign anything. Hey, don't." Yeah, he's like, "Don't sign your name. Like, don't." He's like, "Oh, new guy, huh?" And it's just like, what are they even talking about? Because they're just talking over each other. And
yeah,
yeah, and Elliot Gould's like singing backup, right? Like while they're
yeah.
talking, and that's incredible, right? So, but
Mm,
like this entire tirade is to say that that vibe does not remain throughout the movie. I think that's
mm,
like the most damning thing you can say about it, which
yeah,
is like that vibe is impeccable and the two of them together is impeccable. But like, there's certain scenes that just drag on, and you're like, okay, like we need something, going
yeah,
on. Like, I need something to kind of like latch on to, even if it's not like, even if it's not plot, if it's just like, more of that like insane, wacky, like adventure with them two. And there's times where the movie like really lulls. Like I hate doing this. Like I was trying not to. I was trying my hardest not to, but I got so bored at times during the movie that I pulled out my phone and just started like looking at Twitter and just kind of
Mhm.
listening to the movie, which is like a
Yeah.
cardinal sin, right? But like that's how bored I got, during certain parts of the movie. But
Yeah.
like the times where the vibes are like off the charts, it's just like it's incredible, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely agree that like it's a movie that it could be hard to get into. I think I liked it more the second time I saw it, like over repeat viewings, like because like I said, yeah, like the dynamic between the two, the performances are great. Like I love their chemistry, and the ending like is really good. Like it's really really good. I think like it does elevate the movie to me. Like and yeah, I get I don't know because I could see how people would watch this movie and maybe say like there's no plot, but there definitely is. It's just very like subtle and hidden. Like there's a very specific structure and like it still hits all of like the beats you're supposed to and like
What's a character? I mean, it's very much character driven.
yeah.
There is a.
And
I mean,
it's
there are like a lot of intersecting plots, right?
yeah, and
There's a lot of plots, but like the thing is that like they don't. Which again, that's not a critique on the movie, but like
mm,
I think the thing like where people would say, "Hey, there's no plot," would be because a lot of the plots, like quote unquote, don't like go anywhere. They're just kind of like it's because
mhm,
it's like real people, like
yeah.
it's like the characters are like livable. They're very much like kind of alive people where there's not any like put a bow on it resolution to all
Mhm.
their little side plots or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like yeah, there's one scene in particular. There's the Sparky scene, the scene where like George Siegel, like he owes his bookie money, and then he like borrowed more money to make a bet, and then he lost it, and then he like takes them. Then like, because to me, it's like very I can see how like it works. It's like okay, because then that happens, and then he goes and borrows money from the guy at the paint store, which we never see again,
Yeah.
and then he goes and plays poker, loses. He's trying to get Sparky's money back, and he doesn't get it back until the end. But like, that whole scene with Sparky, I just thought it's one of my favorite scenes because it's like I don't know, they do they do the thing of like when you talk about like I said, both of these movies were cited as an influence by the Safdie brothers. You could like if you like Uncut Gems or if you've seen it and you see these movies, you'll be like, oh yeah, I can totally see the like influence or whatever. They
Oh
do the
yeah,
thing.
California Split, like absolutely. I can
Mhm.
definitely. Well, I mean, both of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely both of them are very much Uncut Gems esque. I mean, there's that. Him kind of like weaseling his way out, where he's like, "Just give me till Friday. Just give me
yeah,
till
yeah, yeah,
Friday. I'm
yeah.
not." He's
That's
like, "I'm not fucking you."
they do the thing where it's like the long lenses, it's close ups, and they focus. There's a lot of that scene where they do like I guess it's called like non dragnet style editing, where it's like it'll be Sparky talking, but we'll be focused on George Siegel and just his face like while the bookie's like threatening him and telling him, why are you giving me excuses, whatever. Like I don't know, I like that a lot. It's like I said, it's a movie that the first time I saw it, I was like, yeah, because it's a comedy too. And I was like, kind of like, where is this going? And then, like I said, the more I watch it, like I appreciate it more because, like I said, it's also again, I know it's flawed. That's why I'm not like because I don't really think you said anything that that I disagree with.
Yeah.
Other than like I said, being bored, but like I smoke a lot more weed, so that might have something to do with it because I was captivated. But yeah, I think like I said, I this is like isn't a movie that gets made today. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if it does, people would like lambast it and call it a bomb, and like, and I that's why I love movies like that. Like, I love movies that couldn't. You like I said, even though I don't do this in my real life, like I respect so much a movie that can deviate from traditional structure or whatever and
Mhm.
like still be captivating, still be interesting, still like you know like like I said, a lot of Scorsese movies from last week, or like they're the same way. Like Goodfellas and Casino don't really have a plot per se. It's more of just like here's a guy's life and some stuff that he does, and um, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I personally just love this time period as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think the like the most interesting aspect of it too, like the time period, that it's set in, is like it's just so, like, because it's set in the city and it's so grungy, and
yeah.
there's like, I mean, they get robbed all the time.
Oh,
Like in
dude,
the
they get
movie.
robbed. I love the robbery scenes and stuff, and then
He's
especially.
like, I think he says like, I love like taking money from rednecks, and like redneck and his like four buddies go and like beat the fuck out of them and steal their
Yeah,
money, and then like that's the greatest payoff in the movie,
and then
like
they paid off later. Yeah,
when he
I love
punches.
that. Dude.
Oh man, when he punches him in the face, he's like, "Okay, that's a good punch. Like that's a pretty good." And he's like, like he
Yeah,
broke his nose. He's like, "That's a pretty good punch." And he gets up and then like beats the hell out of the guy. And it was
yeah,
like, yeah, I had to, like, I knew it wasn't. He's like, "All right, man, enough." Like, and then he goes, "Oh no,
yeah.
it's not enough." He kicks him in the ribs,
He's like,
and
this
then
guy lost all his money, tried to kill himself.
he tells him, he's like, "Call the ambulance. This guy tried to kill himself while he's
Yeah,
like walking out, like bleeding." Oh, it's
yeah,
great. It's a great, it's a great movie. And then, like, I mean, I like how I like how grungy it is, right? Like how disgusting everything is. Like, I mean, the racetrack, the horses, like the
oh yeah.
lady that she's throwing shit at him, like, you told me Queen's Gambit wasn't gonna win, and he's just like,
Oh,
come
that's one of
on,
my
lady.
favorite. Yeah, that's one of my favorite bits was when he. And again, that's the one that's where like you're watching it, you're like, ah, what the fuck's going on? But then if you watch it again, you're like, oh, he's like. He convinces her. She goes to the horse race to put money on a specific horse, and on the way there, he convinces her not to put money on the horse.
Oh my, he says the
Uh,
line, which is incredible. He says the line, she goes, he's like, that horse is gas. The horse is like gas. It can't do anything. And she's like, not, that's not exactly the line he says, but then she's like, well, he owes me. Like he owes
yeah,
us all, right? Right.
and
Or
then he
she
says
owes
it
us all.
later.
And then
Yeah,
he's like, oh, he goes, well, I'll tell you what. He's like, that horse is going to owe you more because that horse is going to lose. And she was like, okay. And then later on, yeah, he's like, are
yeah.
you? He's like, are you? Bill's like, are you sure? Like, we should put. He's like, the horse owes us. The horse
Yeah,
owes it. Like, it's.
he owes me, he owes everyone. Yeah, yeah, I love man. Yeah, like I said, I love it. Like, yeah, you had about the response. I thought, like I said, the fact that you're watching another Altman, another Elliot Gould movie is cool because yeah, I love that combination. Like Elliot Gould is a very cool. Gould in the '70s is a very cool guy to me.
Oh my god, that man can
He's
smoke a
cool.
cigarette like no one. He can smoke a cigarette while drinking a beer like no other, man. Like
Yeah,
that's another thing that we really need to bring back in movies. Like, I think every movie needs to have a like person smoking a cigarette. Like, I've never wanted to smoke a cigarette in my life, but it's one of the most cinematic things you can do.
yeah.
It's so cool.
There's a script that I wrote that we're sort of working on, possibly like trying to get made, whatever. And like I woke up in the middle of the night and I like texted the guy that I'm
Mhm.
working with, my producer friend, and he goes, I go, hey, I just realized like I don't know if I like say the word cigarette in the script, but in my mind they were smoking in every scene, because it's 1967, and he's like, oh yeah, yeah, I assume that. And I was like, okay, cool, cool, cool.
They got to, dude. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
thing. Like,
smoking is
it's
very
such
cool.
a. I mean, that's a yeah. It's funny because like I have no desire to do it in my real life, but like, damn,
Oh,
it's so
dude,
cool on screen. It's
I
so cool on screen, dude. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, and that man, I'm telling they talk about like Brad Pitt being like a like an eating actor. He's like the best at like eating food on screen.
yeah.
Like Elliot Gould, like he's so good at smoking on screen.
Yeah, yeah, and it's crazy that for most of my life I was like, oh, that's Ross's dad, Ross and Rachel's dad from Friends. That's how I knew. And then it turns out, oh no, he was a fucking playboy pimp in the '70s. Yeah, and like I said, like because he's also like he's not the best. Like he's good looking, but he's not. He's not like one of these like boy toys. Like one of these like perfectly like lab created like specimens.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? He's like
yeah, of course.
he's like a regular guy. He's cute for a regular guy or whatever, but he just has a swagger about him. And he like you said, George Siegel's the same way too though. He like he's in they're both in a lot of movies around this time where they're very cool. George Siegel was oh shit, wow. I'm just now realizing this. And I may be wrong, but I don't think I am. So Elliot Gould definitely played Rachel or Ross and Monica's dad on Friends, and I'm 99% sure that George Siegel played Rachel's dad.
Oh, nice. I've never
like,
seen Friends, so I have no clue what you're talking about.
Okay, well, wow. A lot of our listeners will know what I'm saying, but that's good because Ross and Rachel were like the two main characters, and they ended up together. And I never got that until now that both of their fathers were played by George Siegel and Elliot Gould. Like, oh
Nice.
man, yeah. So like, total, yeah. Props to Friends, dude. That's a good reference. But yeah, no, I'm like I said, it, I love the scene where like he Elliot Gould kind of disappears for a while, then he just like reappears, and he was in Mexico.
Yeah.
And he's like, why didn't you tell me? You didn't think I would have liked to go with you? And he was like, you weren't in the dream, because he says that he went because he had a dream or whatever.
He's Gold is definitely a vibes guy in the movie, right? He's very much like, and that's the thing is like that whole movie's about vibes. He's very much a guy who just like lives off of vibes. I mean, he like lives with two prostitutes, right? That's another like it's so interesting. Like I thought it's funny that the movie that we watched, the Dudes Rock movie that we watched, that was directed by a guy, had like more care for the female characters than like the movie that was written and directed by a woman.
We'll get to that, yeah.
Yeah. So, but the prostitutes are like very, sympathetic. They're great, I really liked how the younger one, like because you don't know the dynamic at first, right? You're literally going in. He's like, "Hey, Barbie," like kisses her on the cheek, and you're like, "Oh, they're like married or something," right? That's what you think. You think they're married, and he's like, "Oh, there's the kiddo. What's up, kiddo?" Blah blah. And she was like, "He, I thought he liked me," and he goes, "Well, did he pay?" And she's like, $30. Like he's like, "Did he pay the $30?" Yeah. She's like, "Oh, he gave me 50." And she goes, "Well, he really liked you." And she's like, "No, he didn't." And she's crying. And I'm like, "Oh." And then later on, you kind of like through they never say that they're prostitutes, but then it's like inferred, like.
That's what obviously I love shit like that too, where it's like they don't beat you over the head with everything. You know what I'm saying? And again, I feel like if you wrote the script, you would get 1,000 notes of people telling you like, "Who are these people? We don't know who they are. Like, explain it." And it's like because that's how people want movies now. They want everything explained up front, and it's like the best movies reveal information little by little.
George Siegel, like he like hates that. He hates that. Elliot Gould's character is so free. He doesn't hate it, but he like wants to be that way. And he actually really starts to like the younger, like prostitute girl. He's like hanging out. He takes her on a date, and she's like, "Oh, he really likes me." And then he's like, "I don't have any money," and she's like, "That's okay. I like really like you, And they're fixing to have sex, and it's interesting because Barbara, the older prostitute that lives with them, comes in, and she's like, she's like, "I'm looking for the TV guide. It's like in my bed." Like they're fixing to have sex on her bed, and she doesn't care. She's like, "Yeah, that's fine. Like, where's the TV guide?" Right? And she's like looking for it, and he gets like embarrassed and leaves. And then she's like, "He doesn't like me." And then Barbara's like, "Oh, honey, he likes you." And she's like, "No, he doesn't." Like that's her like little character arc, is that she like she falls like really. She doesn't fall in love, I guess, but she really likes like all the guys she sees, Yeah. And then it's incredible. Like, everyone's named Barbara in the movie.
Yeah.
That's like great.
They bring it back at the end with they don't call it out, but it's like they have a close up.
Her name tag.
Yeah, name tag. Yeah.
Her name's Barbara. He's like, and then he goes, "What's your name?" She's like, "Oh, Barbara." He's like, "Everybody." He's like, "Why the fuck is everyone named Barbara?" Right? And it's like it's like an homage. Like it's the movie's like. It was dedicated to a Barbara, right? So it's like that's at the end. It's like in memory of Barbara or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay. But
and we get a random Jeff Goldblum appearance for one brief scene. Very
comes out and was like, "Does he know I want to see him?" She's like, "He knows. It's his boss."
Yeah. He's like, "Oh yeah, I told him." And he's like, "Okay, thanks." And just like goes back. Yeah. No, yeah.
I was like, when I saw that, I was like, holy shit, is that Jeff Goldblum? And I was like, that is Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah, the motherfucker
There's
just
another.
randomly appear. Oh, he
There's
Annie Hall. He just randomly appears as well.
Yeah, there's another guy in the next movie that we're talking about that I was like, holy shit, is that? Yep, that's him.
Oh,
um,
there's two guys in the next movie that I always get mixed. That I always get them mixed up, and I'm like, oh fuck, they're both in this movie, and I was like, fucked me up because again I was stoned. I was watching it
so
earlier.
before we get to the next movie, like, what was your? Do you have any final thoughts on this one? And also, what was your like rating if you had to like rate it?
Yeah, like I said, this is one of those. It's like a 4.5, 5-star for me, just because it personally tickles my buttons. Like I said, it's a flawed movie. It's not perfect. I understand why some people would straight up hate it. Like I'm glad you liked it as much as you did. You don't have to love it, you know. You just, but
Yeah, I also think it's
yeah,
one of those movies that you kind of. I think it's one of those
it
movies you need
grows
to
on
sit
you.
with. Yes, and it definitely
Yeah.
will probably grow on me the more times I watch it. Which I'm definitely going to rewatch it.
Oh yeah.
Which is
And like I said,
the highest praise I can give a movie
yeah,
nowadays.
no, I'm glad you enjoyed it as much as you did. And like I said, I just wish people watch. This is like this is my last thought, but it's like this is the reason why I wish people would watch older movies, because you can like look back and you can say like, oh, people have done it differently. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't always done one very specific way. Like I said, it still has a pretty traditional structure. If you break it down, it's just very like hidden, but like I said, I wish you could just make a movie. I wish I could just go into a studio and be like, yeah, here's my script. It's not very good, but it's vibes. Like, just trust me, it's gonna be all vibes. And maybe there are
Yeah.
some people who are like so well connected. I'm sure there are like people who like, with famous parents who have gotten away with that or whatever. But
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
but I like I said, I just wish. Like I said, it's more. It's just it feels almost kind of alien, like it just feels like I
It's so
said,
different. It's
yeah,
so different than what we have now,
exactly, yeah,
especially. You know.
yeah, but yeah, no, yeah, that's mostly why I wanted you to watch it, and like I said, Drip God Elliot Gould, put some respect on his name,
I know.
like yeah, he's a god. It's funny because like I then like right after I rewatched it, I saw a post on Twitter. It was like a picture of like Barbara Streisand in a pool, and like she's like on this guy's shoulders and he's flexing and you can't see his face because her legs are in his way, but
Mhm.
like they both look really sexy, right? And the post was like, oh, this is Jewish excellence or something. And the guy, even though I knew who it was, but yeah, it was Elliot Gould.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Drip God. Yeah, I think he had a lot of famous affairs and stuff. He was a playboy, cool guy. Like Elliot Gould awareness, please. Everyone. Like I said, I'm glad you're watching a long goodbye, the long goodbye. Because like I said, it's a very similar movie in that it's a lot of vibes. It's a lot of just like, but Elliot Gould is just that kind of guy that you can watch him just like. You can just watch him, like you said, smoke a cigarette, and it's captivating. And I really miss that. Like, they're like the. I was thinking like who's like the modern day Elliot Gould, and like the closest name I could come up with was like Oscar Isaac, um, who I love, but you know,
Yeah, I
he's
don't
sort of
know.
been trapped in like the whole franchise thing, and he's also like again he's a little more sanitized. Like there's no one like there is no one like Elliot Gould really.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's kind of hard to kind of. I tell you, what's crazy though, like, and you'll think I'm crazy because, like, I'm not. Oh God, I can't believe I'm gonna like show my ass on this, but like, I think, oh my God, she was in Breaking Bad. Kristen Ritter. I
Oh
think
yeah,
she's
yeah.
got pretty similar like vibe acting.
Yeah, I
And
can
I'm
see
just
that for sure.
specifically thinking, like, and this is obviously, a movie podcast. We hate Disney we hate Disney, we hate MCU. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that out there. But like in Jessica Jones, she like drinks all the time. She's like a PI,
I love Jessica Jones. Yeah, no, it's fine.
and she like drinks all the time, and like is just angry and like sad and
Yeah,
like depressed and stuff. And I think that's a very similar kind of vibe to Elliot Gould's like smoke. Like she makes drinking look like really cool on screen, and it's like, but it's like it's kind of like a pathetic like coping habit,
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
so
But yeah, no, that's actually a really good comparison. Sweet.
yeah. I don't know why I pulled that out. I was just like
Yeah. 1976's Mikey and Nicky. It stars Peter Falk and John Cassavetes. It's written and directed by Elaine May. It very much feels like it stars Cassavetes, so a lot of people confuse this for one of his movies. Peter Falk and him also star in Husbands. Elaine May shot a lot of footage for this film. Missed the deadline. The studio took it back from her, released a really weird, fucked up cut with a bunch of continuity errors. They didn't release her cut until like the 80s, and then it didn't even come out on home video until 2019. So this is kind of like the movie I feel like, because her only other movie feature after this was Ishtar, which is like famously a bomb. But I think a lot of people can see that like a lot of the heat she took for that was kind of sexist. But this is like, to me, her greatest film. For those who don't know, like, she comes from the improv world of the 1950s, literally the birth of improv. Her and Mike Nichols were like a famous comedy duo. Mike Nichols would go on to direct The Graduate and The Birdcage and stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of the background on this movie. Again, one of my favorites, very different in tone. I want to make that clear. I picked California Split because I knew it was a comedy and I knew it would be fun. And then I picked this one because I knew it was the opposite of fun. It was very fucked up and not fun at all. So yeah, Mikey and Nicky, I'm dying to know, what did you think?
Okay, so before I throw out the stars, I just gotta say, so I watched this one yesterday. I absolutely loved this movie.
Oh shit, let's go. Okay.
I
I honestly, until you said love, I was like, man, did he fucking hate this movie? Because I was like, man, because I when I watched it, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. I want to hear what you have to say.
So for both of these were first time watches for me. And this movie, so I'm not familiar with Elaine May at all. I didn't know she existed as a person until you recommended this movie. And which is crazy. But it's not too crazy when you like look at her filmography, because she has 3 movies, right?
Yeah, she's
I don't know what. Oh, go ahead.
All right, I studied at UCB in LA, so like that's how I know her, is just from being a comedy nerd, like, because the 50s was like the birth of what we now, the modern improv movement, and so she moved to Chicago at that time, and it wasn't Second, it was another theater. I think she was at the birth of Second City, but it was another theater as well. But yeah, her and Mike Nichols were like a comedy duo, and they would do like this like funny like domestic, like, she was really hot too, and Mike Nichols is like an everyday guy kind of guy, and they would do these like really like kind of risque sketches or whatever, and like they were super famous. And like I said, his first movie was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, and then he did The Graduate, and then The Birdcage, and there's like obviously some other bullshit in there, but those are like his best ones. But yeah, her, like I said, her filmography is really limited, and like I said, Ishtar was famously a bomb at the time. It was a punchline for decades.
Yes,
like a huge
it still
bomb.
It still is a punchline, because the only so when I looked at her movies, right, because I was like, I'm the kind of nerd that like whenever you recommend a movie that I haven't seen by a director or writer I haven't seen, I will go and look at their like their IMDb, their credits, just to see what they've directed. And I looked at hers. She's directed 3 movies. I don't remember the first one. It was Mikey and Nicky, and then Ishtar. And I was like, the only one I recognized out of those, besides Mikey and Nicky, which you told me to watch, was Ishtar, because it was like a red letter media punchline. Like,
yeah.
I just remember that like vividly. I don't remember which video it was, but they're like talking about like crappy movies, and then they keep cutting to the Ishtar trailer.
Yeah,
in their video.
There's an episode of Best of the Worst, because I'm also a religious red letter media watcher. There's an episode of Best of the Worst where like they have it on the table, and they're like pretend they're gonna talk about it, but they don't actually talk about it.
Yeah,
it's like a famous bomb. But yeah, so you love it, yeah.
Yeah, so but real quick about like Ishtar, it's kind of like I was seeing it's kind of being reclaimed, because it's like it's not. This is the thing. It's fine to like. There's like bad movies, right? And it's fine to not reclaim everything. I think. Just like I'll just go ahead and throw that out there. It's a little little sidebar. It's fine to just go, yeah, that was bad. I read
Amazing
somewhere.
Spider-Man 2.
What was it? Yeah, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is definitely one of them that people are reclaiming. Just because it's not like a Disney Marvel film, right? Doesn't mean you have to like if
I
it's
love Andrew Garfield, dude, but like, come on, like he's made some stinkers, you know. Like,
yeah,
I mean,
there are
it's
plenty
fine.
there are plenty of bad movies that aren't Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, or whatever, the current cultural zeitgeist. Like, it's fun. Anyway, long story long, I did read also that Elaine May kind of quit because she was very disheartened because she got a lot of pushback, and a lot of it was like she got like aggressively, like from what I've read, she got like aggressively attacked. It wasn't
It
like,
was
oh,
very
this
sexist, basically.
yeah, it wasn't like, oh yeah, this movie sucks. It was like you're a fucking idiot, and like you
Yeah,
should never direct another movie, and it's
yeah.
and
You
then this
stupid
movie too.
moron. We're all dumber for listening to what you have said, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That was kind of also with Mikey and Nicky. I read that she also had, like you said, she had a lot of studio interference, and then she got really disillusioned after
Yeah,
those two things that happened back to back. That she stopped making movies.
and
It's
there
like,
was
damn.
there was 10 years in between Mikey and Nicky and Ishtar. She took 10 years off and then came back and made Ishtar and was like, yeah, you know what? Actually, I
And
I don't think I need this.
yeah, it's crazy because like it's almost like a lot of times the Hollywood system punishes like the best directors, like John Carpenter. Anywho, little side tangent, but yes, I absolutely love this movie. I did watch. Shout outs to the best streaming service, HBO Max. Free
Yeah.
ad. If you want to give us money, you definitely can. But just kidding.
Yeah,
But
no, we'll look it
HBO
up.
Max. HBO Max is an incredible streaming service. This had it. It had the criteria. Like it wasn't on the. I don't know if it was on the Criterion channel or not. I didn't check
It was
there.
because that's where I watched it.
It was on the Criterion. Okay, because
Yeah.
I pull up HBO Max and the Criterion Collection thing is at the beginning of it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I was like, this is great. The HBO Max, at least, and I know Criterion does. They have her cut of the film.
Yeah.
That they play. There are still some like there was one continuity error that I noticed, but like I don't really care
There's
about
a
that.
few, there's a few rough patches and jump cuts yeah, like I don't care. Yeah,
Yeah, this movie's awesome. I loved it. I
cool.
absolutely loved it. 4.5 stars, definitely out of
Yeah,
5. Jesus, it's another movie that's like definitely the ending makes it as
fuck
good
yeah.
as it is. It's a great ending. I mean, the beginning too is just crazy. I can definitely see how this movie, because I was like, oh yeah, California Split definitely inspired Uncut Gems, and then I was like, wait a minute, like this
Yeah,
movie was
yeah,
definitely
no.
the nervous energy that it's got.
Oh man, it's so the whole movie is so like anxious and uncomfortable. You know, it
and
just
and
yeah.
and you think like the entire like so the film is essentially, and you don't even really figure it out that well. Like it's one again, it's a vibes movie. It kind of like withholds information from you.
It's kind of hard to tell. Like, yeah, because at first you're
You
not
don't really
sure if
know what
she's.
happens, and then it is kind of explicitly said towards the end what
Yeah,
happens. You go, oh, okay, that's what I figured. That's
yeah,
exactly what I thought. So John Cassavetes, he steals. Nicky, he steals, which they call him Nicky once in the movie, I think, once or twice. They call him
yeah,
Nick the rest of the time, and then Mikey, I thought it was Mickey. I thought it was Mickey and
oh, yeah,
Nicky,
yeah,
but
yeah.
um, Mikey, they call him Mikey Moore, but they call him Mike a lot of times. But so Nicky steals money from his mob boss, right? He works for the mob.
Yeah.
It's not really clear which mob he works for.
All we know is that it's something to do with a bank because Mikey says the word. He says, "I got you the job at the bank," and then and so Peter Falk also got him the job. So they're both gangsters, but it's not explicit at all. It's like it's very like again they don't beat you over the head with it. It's like, oh, you kind of like if you can pick up on the clues because they cut to the boss or whatever and Resnick or whatever
Yes.
and you like all you know what you have to know, like, oh, he's the boss. Like I come up to with this a lot in my writing where it's like there's always a boss character, right? Like he could be a crime boss, a drug dealer, it could just be like a very successful carpet salesman, but there's always a boss, you know?
Yeah. So the essentially like just to kind of like if no one's ever seen it and they're kind of
Oh
like
yeah,
oh, I want the whole thing spoiled for me. So Nicky, yeah, he's working for the mob. He steals some money. His partner, who stole the money with him, I don't remember his name because you
it's
don't
a
see
book.
him. It's a bookie.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
forgot his name,
he's
but all I remember, yeah, because it starts out with Nicky is hiding. He's in hiding basically because his bookie slash partner that he was stealing money with ended up dead, and he
a
heard that
lot of money too. It was a lot of
yeah,
money.
and he heard that there was a hit on him too as well.
Yes. So
And
yes. So he sees in the paper that his partner is dead. He's found dead. And he gets like paranoid very much for good reason. He thinks
yeah,
there's a hit out on him. Right, there is. Uh, and so he calls his childhood friend Nicky, right, to
Mike,
help him
yeah,
out of or sorry, Mikey, to help him out of the jam, right?
yeah.
So the first, like, he comes, he's like, go to the corner store, bring cigarettes.
I
He doesn't,
love. I just want to say this one thing. I love in the beginning of how like Mikey like jokes about Nicky's paranoia, where he's like, "Oh," where he's like, "Come on, let me in," and when he doesn't let me, he's like, "We're coming for you, Nicky. We're coming for you. We're all here." And then like, he's like, "Who do you think's out here?" You know what I mean? And then like, he does that a few times where he fucks with them, where he's like, what you think I brought people with me? You think someone's following me? You know?
yeah.
I love that detail.
He's like, you gotta trust me, I'm trying to help
Yeah,
you. And so he goes in and there's, he's very paranoid. He doesn't trust, obviously doesn't trust Mikey, that much, which for good reason, Um, and the rest of the movie is kind of like it's them staying one step ahead of the hitman, right?
yeah.
He's after them, and you find
It's
out
played
that
by Ned Beatty amazingly.
yes,
And at
and
first I was like, oh, Ned Beatty, that's the bad guy from Blood Simple. But no, the bad guy from Blood Simple
yes,
is like E. Emmett Walsh, who is also in this movie. That's what I was
he's
talking
the
about
bus
earlier.
driver.
Yeah, yeah,
Incredible.
yeah,
That's who I was like. Wait a minute, that's no, and I was like, no, that's the Cohen guy. Like,
yeah, yeah. Awesome. I love that scene where like they try to get him out. He's like, he's a big guy. Oh man, it's great.
dude, I love it because so again, just the absolute grunge. This is like it's like a hellscape, right? Like they're just
Oh,
it's
very
such a
good.
shitty place. He goes to the corner store. He's like at first he's like because Nicky is worried himself so much that he's upset his yeah, and then so he goes and gets he's like, I gotta get you half and half, which I don't know why that would help. I'm not sure. I'm not a doctor, but
Right.
he's like, I gotta go and get you half and half to calm your stomach down or you'll die, basically, right? Because your ulcer is gonna rupture.
Yeah,
And so he goes, and this is like my favorite scene in the movie. He
yeah,
goes to get the half and half, and he's like, "Can you get me some half and half?" He's like, "How many coffees you want?" He's like, "I don't want a fucking coffee. I want half and
yeah.
half." He's like, the
That
diner
was
guy is like, "I can't do that. That's only for coffee." He's like, "I wouldn't know how much to charge." He's like, "Give me a big fucking thing of like half and half." He's like, "Wouldn't know what to charge you. You have to get coffee with it, and I can put it in the
we don't
coffee."
sell
He's
half
like,
and half.
"Can you put it? Can you like put it separately?" He's like, "I can't do that." Right? And he goes, "Okay, charge me for 15 coffees." He's like, that's how much. He's like, really? He's like, all right, yeah. He's like, go ahead and put in that big styrofoam thing. He jumps over the fucking counter, grabs him. He's like, I'll fucking kill you. He's
No,
like, I'll kill you.
the crazy that you should say, he asks him, he goes, okay, just charge me for 15 coffees and give me whatever, right? And the guy
Yeah,
says, okay. So I'm like, okay, he's going to give him the thing now, right? Like, at that point, the scene's over, right? But
yeah.
no. because
Then Mikey jumps over the counter, is like, "I'll kill you! I'll kill! I'm crazy enough to do it. I'm fucking crazy! I'll
yeah,
kill you!" He's like, "Fill it up, hurry, 10 seconds!" And he's like, keeps
he's like
yelling at him.
beating him. He breaks. There's like a case of donut, a glass case of donuts. He just tosses on the floor and shit.
Yeah, he's like, "I'm crazy. I'll do it. I'll do." He's like, "Okay, calm down." He's like filling him up with a half and half, and then like, it's the best. It's the best scene. It's incredible. I'm
Yeah,
like,
no,
this is awesome, and he's just insane, right? He's just going insane off this diner guy. He
yeah. He's like,
goes
I'll do it
back.
because I'm crazy.
Yeah, he
And,
goes
and
back.
we should mention this is Peter Falk. This is Columbo, who's not only an amazing actor, but really an amazing actor, but has a lazy eye.
Yeah.
And we should mention that because his appearance plays into the plot pretty heavily at the end.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
In the most uncomfortable part of the movie for me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, he goes and, he gives him the half, and he goes back, gives him the half and half. He calls. He's like, "Where are we going? We're going to this bar." Okay. It doesn't look like a bar either. It's kind of weird. It looks like
I was gonna say that's one of my favorite scenes, like because I just love that setting, or this is one of my favorite sets. Like it's like a bar room, I guess you might call it, like a pool hall or like a
yeah, it's like one of those all night
cigarette
like
hall.
diner
It's a very
bar.
1970s like drinking hall, I think is what you might call them, like very European kind of New York place where like you just go and get like 50-cent beer or whatever.
Yeah, so they go there. He calls. He calls. The hotel. The hitman's there. He's like, "Okay, I'll meet you there." He goes, "It'll be 20 minutes depending on traffic."
Yeah,
which is great. He gets stuck in traffic.
This is pretty important because they go, like first they cut to Ned Beatty, who we know later is a hitman. But it's so crazy because the first time you're watching this, you're not gonna, you see Ned Beatty, you're not like, oh, that's a killer, right? Like he doesn't look like.
I saw him when he's like, again, like movies aren't there to be figured out, right? I knew like immediately. I was like, oh, he's a mob guy, right? When he was like circling, he's like, all right, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I was like, fuck, dude. I was like, no, I was like, Mikey's selling him out. But here's the hold on, like here's the brilliant thing about this, real quick. So you realize that he's selling him out, right? Mm-hmm. And then they do a bait and switch where he calls his wife. He's like, I gotta call my wife. He calls his wife. He actually calls his wife. And then he's like, I'm gonna be at this place. And she's like, okay. And then she's like, wait a minute, I need a pen. And you go, oh fuck. He like,
yeah.
You think, oh, someone else must have sold him out. Like he's just,
well, yeah,
like,
because
using the phone to talk to his wife, and then you're like, no, she's like talking to the like, oh. So
yeah, no, it's because the way they cut it, they just show Ned Beatty getting the call and being like, "Wait for my signal," blah blah blah, and then the next thing they don't show Peter Falk talking on the phone with him. They just show him hanging up the phone. So you're like, maybe they were talking to each other, but maybe not. Like maybe Peter Falk was talking to his wife, but then later on, Peter Falk goes to his wife, gives her the address, which later on when Ned Beatty calls, she gives him the address, and that's what you're saying, like you're finding out he's calling. But then there's this like brief period in between where like because Ned Beatty says something like, I'll call you let it ring 3 times, and then come outside, and then I'll go in there and do it. And
he says bring him out on the street. He said bring him out on the street, and then I'll do it there. He's like, in and out, 10 minutes, we're done, basically.
And and then Nicky, like he like wants to leave, and Mikey's trying to get him to stall, and he's like, I gotta finish my beer, Mike. I gotta finish my beer. And the whole like repeating himself thing like comes into play later. But no, I love that scene because there's all this tension where you're like, oh shit, he's trying to get him to stay. Like I said, like again, they don't beat you over the head with it. So there's like multiple points where like different people could have been like, oh, I get, oh, yo, shit, I get it now.
But also the whole staying with the beer thing. He's been the entire night. He's like, you need to calm down, right? Because because Nicky's going insane. He's going crazy.
Yeah.
Right. Like the nervous, and you go, okay, Mikey's very patient with him. He's a very caring friend. He's like, can I just please finish my beer? Can I please finish? Come, just let me sit here, finish my beer. He starts like kind of almost chugging the beer at first.
He keeps repeating the line. I think it's like, but I haven't finished my beer, Nicky. Like he
Yeah, which is great because you go, okay, you can either infer that he's trying to keep him there for the rings, or you can go, oh, like, Nicky's crazy, like, and Mikey like justifiably wants to sit and finish his beer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is incredible.
Like they like you said they make it pretty explicit in the end. Like,
oh yeah,
like Peter Falk is the one who like or Mikey sold Nicky out or whatever. But like so.
But he doesn't. Here's the thing: he doesn't do it himself. That's the main thing. He's in and just to jump forward a little bit, I think he kind of regrets the decision.
Oh,
I think he really does.
Because at the end when he's like when he kind of like he doesn't even yell it. He just kind of says it to himself. He's like, "Run, you schmuck." Yeah, but okay. So what I love is that they reveal early on, if you're paying attention, like you can kind of piece together that Mikey is actually selling Nicky out because they keep trying. He keeps trying to get him to go. He keeps telling Ned Beatty, "Meet me up at this place," but on the way to that place, Nicky will make like a detour. Like he
keeps, and that's what I thought.
I won't put on the bus to like no go ahead.
I think he knows. I'm not 100% sure.
No, yeah.
But I do believe that he actually does know, and he's kind of hoping, like, against hope that that's not actually, because he knows they're coming for him. Even he talks about death a lot. Oh, God, this movie's so fucking good. I love this movie.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, no, like I had that thought too, where it's like, does he know? Because there's a specific line. Oh, the best scene of the movie is the cemetery scene. But there's a line where he's like, "At least I'm not doing what you're doing," or something like that. Like there's like one line in particular where it's like, oh, it kind of made me think that because basically they're on the train to the movie theater where Mikey said that they were going to be, where he told Ned Beatty. But on the way there,
that's a 70s thing too. It's an all night movie theater.
Yeah.
24/7
no
movie
cell phones. That's a big like no cell phones. A lot of But basically on the way there, Nicky just is like, "Oh hey, this is like they just happen to pass by where his mom's buried," and he's like, he just like yells at the bus driver, Emmett Walsh, and it's a big fucking thing.
Oh my God, dude!
He's so fucking funny,
dude. He grabs the bus driver. He's like, "Let me out the front." He goes, "I saw you smoking on the bus." Yeah. He goes, "Okay, you fucking really?" He's like, "Let me." He's like, "Open the door, let the passenger on, let us out." He goes, "You guys got to go through the back." He's like, "Well, then open the door." He's like, "I'll open the door and let the passenger on, but you guys got to go out the back." And he goes, "Oh, come on." He's like, "I'm leaving in 10 seconds." He's like,
"Oh, they also try to like pull him out of his like chair."
They while he's on down, they grab him, and Nicky's like wrestling him, right? And Nicky's like, "Come on, man." He's like, "Just like open the door." He's like, "I don't know." He's like, "This guy's pretty big, right?" And he goes, "All right, tough guy." He's like, "All right, well, we can't settle it on the bus." He's like, "There's no fighting on the bus, right?"
He goes, "I'll get fired if I fight on the bus."
Yeah. So Nicky's like, "All right, tough guy. Like, we'll go out Scouts honor, right? Like, we'll go." He says something like Scouts honor. He's like, "All right, we'll go out." He's like, "I'll set you down." He's like, "You got to open the door, let her in. We'll go out the back. You can step out of the bus and we'll fight, right?" Like, he's like, "I'm honorable, man. Like, are you?" He's like, "Are you good?" Like, he's choking about it. He's like, "Are you good?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, open the door." He sets him down. He opens the door. They both run out, and the guy's like, "Hey, what the hell?" Like, right, because they run away. It's incredible.
And then, like, it's so funny, and it's good because the next scene is like very heavy. Like
so heavy.
The cemetery scene. Like, okay, first off, we have to talk about like how pathetic. Well, okay, like there's a line. Like Nicky tells Mikey, "You don't know what I mean," and Mikey goes, "Of course not, because I'm stupid." Peter Falk, like the ugly one, he's so like pathetic and like God, just like sad, just a sad man. But what I love is that they reveal early on to, like I said, that basically you can tell that he's the one who's selling Nicky out. But what I love is that like so then automatically you're like, okay, like I hope Nicky escapes, right? But then they do this thing where like over the second act, like they show you explicitly what a piece of shit Nicky is.
Yeah.
And so like they show that he's a racist, he's a piece of shit, he's a fucking asshole. So at some point I remember
Oh my
thinking
god,
like
dude!
I
The
remember
line that he says, he's
yeah,
like, he goes,
I'm not
oh,
gonna repeat it, but I know what the line is, but
yeah, maybe we should repeat. I was just gonna say, like, it's
well
just kind of like
he
they go to like a black bar, right?
yeah.
Essentially, so this is after the cemetery. The cemetery was a great scene. He talks about death.
Oh yeah, we
He's
should
like,
say like the cemetery scene, like because they're going to see Nikki's mom, and
Mikey's
that's
Jewish. That's
yeah,
you know,
and we also find out that they talk about the afterlife. The Cassavetes' description of the afterlife of like, so you don't that doesn't bother you that you're just gonna close your eyes and it's gonna be all over one day or something like that description of death was so like it hit me so personally because I've had that like specific thought a
mhm,
lot, you know.
yeah,
So and then that's when we find out that like they go back like to childhood basically, and they tell the story of Mikey's little brother who was like we found out later he got sick and was bald and they made fun of him and then he died because he had
he died the
scarlet
next
fever.
day. Yeah,
Yeah, and like man, it's like because like so Mikey starts saying a prayer.
yeah. He starts doing some. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with Judaism, but he starts doing. I think it's like the kibbah
Yeah,
kai
yeah.
something.
He starts doing a prayer, and then like at the same time though, Nikki's trying to like talk, but he's
Yeah.
like just talking shit.
Well, he's
Um,
laughing. He's laughing
yeah,
too, and he's like, "I'm talking to my mom." He goes, "Well, shut up! Like she can't hear
exactly.
you. Like you don't have to talk to her. You know, like you can talk to her in your head or whatever." Because he's trying to do this prayer. He's like respect. He's like, I don't. He said, "There's two different things. Like there's believing in something.
And
There's
respect.
there's there's not a difference between not believing in something and then respecting it. Yeah, which is great. It definitely shows like their characters. Extremely well. He's a jokester, right? He's worried, obviously, about death. But he's joking about it, and he jokes about his brother.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah.
he
They
starts
both
laughing. And,
yeah, and he even laughs when Nikki starts joking about Mikey's brother. Mikey starts laughing too.
yeah, because because Nikki's a jokester, right? And that comes back,
Mhm.
later, definitely. But yeah, so they go to the cemetery, and then they go to a predominantly black bar. This is the '70s, right? He's like starts hitting on this. Nikki starts hitting on this girl. He's gonna buy her a drink. She's like, I just asked him for change for the payphone,
Yeah,
right? He's like, yo, that's my old lady. And then he's like, well, what's your name? He's like, my name's Mel. He goes, oh shit, my name's Mel too, right? Like joking.
he's being an absolute piece of shit to like
Yeah,
imply
he
guys.
he absolutely, yeah. And then there's like a part in it where he's like, well, hey
He
man,
goes,
like we're
yeah,
not dumb or something. Just get out. We're trying to give you an out. Essentially, is what he says. He's
yeah.
like, we're not dumb, and he's like, well, why are you black?
Yeah, he's
Is
like,
what he
if you're not
says.
dumb, why are you black? Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
like
so, and then
extremely
literally,
racist.
yeah, and then it's incredibly racist. You go, wow, what a piece of shit. Like I mean, come on, like even at the time, you're like,
Even
wow,
by
what a,
70
even
standards, that was fucking racist. And
even Nikki, even Mikey was like, come on, like we gotta go, right?
yeah,
Like he's
because
like, you're,
it makes sense in the terms of the plot of they're like, oh well, they have to find a place to lay low, so they'll go to a predominantly black bar, because no one will look from there, no one will know them there, and you're like, okay, like because I remember when the scene happened, I didn't remember where it went, I just it's like, okay, this makes sense in the plot, and Mikey's on the phone or whatever, and then we find out later that he was on the, or I think he might. I don't know if we find out who he was on the phone with, but yeah, he comes out and yeah, Nikki's just being a fucking racist piece of shit, and that's the part where I was like, man, that's when it gets really good for me because like, obviously I don't like that he's racist, but like it shows that he's a fucked up person, and I think the Safdies describe this as a movie about loving complicated people.
yeah, because you don't want him, like you're not like he's a piece of shit, right? Like and then you get to see that, and you don't necessarily want him to die. You're not like,
No,
oh
no,
yeah, like
no.
rooting for his death or whatever.
But you
But
can
he's
understand like to me, I was like, oh, I can see how maybe he's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way over the
well,
years.
it's just it is a justification, if you want to call it that, for Mikey later on to kind
Yeah,
of like really double down and
because that's what I was saying. Because like at first when they revealed that Mikey is like backstabbing Nicky, like it makes me go like, oh fuck that guy, fuck him for selling out his friend. But then when you find out that like Nicky is a piece of shit, you're like, oh, okay, I could actually kind of see, because the rest of the movie is like basically what a dick Nicky's been to Mikey over the years, and you're like,
oh
okay, I
yeah,
can see,
but it's
I like not that I want him to die, but I can see how Peter Falk would have come to this conclusion at some point.
but it's a slow progression too. That's the perfect
Very,
thing,
yeah,
is that it's
yeah,
a very slow progression, because you see how much of a piece of shit Nicky is to other people, to people he
yeah,
doesn't know, to a person that he proclaims to love, and then you really find out how much of a piece of shit to that person he is,
and
and
yeah,
then you go and and then you find out, like, even more so how much of a piece of shit he was to Mikey, and I think that's a very important progression. And then you
huge,
then
yeah,
the it's definitely, you go, I can see how this can only end in one way, and it ends in that way.
yeah,
It's very it's heartbreaking, but it's also sad, like not satisfying, but you know what I mean. It's like cathartic. It's essentially, you
yeah,
go, okay, this is the culmination of like this guy's entire life. You can definitely tell that or something
yeah,
similar had to have happened. But yeah, so they go to the bar. This is what I was saying about the female characters. How Altman's movie has more complex and more um, more
yeah,
sympathetic towards the female characters, because the female character in this movie, right, besides so there's three female characters in the movie, I do believe, right? It's Nikki's wife or ex-wife.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah,
Mikey's current wife,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it's
The nurse,
the what's her
the,
name? The
the nurse.
is that yeah, she's like the side piece, I guess, or not even side piece, like the main squeeze of Nikki, I guess.
Man,
You know,
yeah, I think I think she's a nurse, but yeah,
she's
it's a
something.
very
She's something. I don't know. So he kind of like they go to her house to kind of lay low. It's kind of insinuating, right? He's like, this is his girl, right? She's
man, yeah, it's the most fucked up scene in the movie because basically, like, yeah, Mikey and Nikki go over.
and she's
Mike,
not like an actress. She's like a model or something, I think. I was like looking up like her,
yeah,
and she quit acting. She has this movie, and like she acted in like two TV shows that are
mhm.
like in like one episode each or something. I
Okay,
think her name's something Kelly. I think it's like, I don't remember, but she's a
okay.
model primarily, and then she's also a writer.
Mm.
She wrote some stuff. That's it's a very terrible research, but
Yeah, yeah,
I looked her up. I was like, because I was like, oh, that's like she has kind of like that thing we were talking about, that quality of like, oh,
hmm
she's like in the moving pictures, but then I guess she just didn't like doing them. It's kind of one of those
yeah.
stories where
It's a very fucked up scene because basically, like, she's Mikey's side piece or Nikki's side piece, as you said. Nikki says like, "Hey, let's go see the girl or whatever."
yeah,
So yeah,
he goes
homeboy. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, he goes to her house, and she's striking up a conversation with Mikey because likes his intelligence, right? She's listening to the radio. He's like, oh, you're up
Oh,
on
like in
current
the
events,
news, and Nikki is kind of like,
talking
"You're
about
dumb. What the fuck?"
reading.
Yeah, and Nikki's very condescending toward her.
Yeah, she's talking, he's like, tell her how many books you read. She reads so many books, and he's like, well, you let her talk, kind of thing. And then he keeps like, touching her and like wanting to kiss her, and like he's like, oh, come on, like, she's like,
Mhm.
not in front of your friend, right? Like, not in front of
Yeah,
Mike, or yeah, Mikey. And then he's like, oh, come on, like, whatever. He's like, so Mikey kind of picks up on it. He gets, he goes in the kitchen, smokes
yeah.
a cigarette, just chills.
Homeboy
Nikki,
is
like,
chilling. Homeboy is chilling on the tiny trash can
he
while
sits
Nikki's like while Nicky's fucking this chick, basically, right?
He's having sex with her. Yeah, he definitely forces himself on her.
It's
She's like,
very
she says,
rapey.
no, no, please, no, don't do this,
Yeah,
and he's like, I love you, and then she's like, oh my god, like, I love you too. Just kiss, tell me you love me. So essentially, in the scene, he goes up to Mikey, tells Mikey, hey, she's easy. Just tell her you love her. Goes up to the girl. He said, I think her name's Nellie or
yeah.
something. He goes up to Nellie. He's like, hey, I really like beautiful women. I like smart women. You're both. It's a rarity. Like a beautiful woman who's got brain. He's like being like sweet, right? Like he's trying to.
He's being like, oh, he's like, there's a lot of pretty girls, but it makes it even better when they're smart. And she's like,
Yeah,
oh
and
yeah,
she's
I guess most girls are dumb.
yeah, and she does. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was kind of saying. The women characters in this movie aren't given the most respect.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
which is crazy, right? Elaine
Very
Mayer,
female auteur, dude.
and
I mean,
it's great. Yeah, she writes and directs this. Makes
yep.
a
She's
dude's
got
rock movie. She says
yeah.
so. Yeah. So and he goes to kiss her. Right. He's like, I like you, and he goes to kiss her, and she's like, no, and he forces himself on her, which also is
Yeah.
like, yo, don't do that.
Very rapey again.
A very rapey again. She bites his lip. He goes up and he's going to smack her, and I don't think he smacks her. Does he
Oh,
smack
he
her?
smacks her. Yeah, he hits her a couple times because basically, so like
He hits her, and then
it's
Nikki comes
so
up and hits her.
yeah, it's so weird because he's like, just give me a kiss. She goes, don't get fresh with me, Mikey. And he goes, just give me a kiss. I just want to kiss. And she goes, and so yeah, he tries to like kiss her, and then she bites him, and then he like smacks her, and then Nikki smacks her.
Yeah, so Nikki goes up and he's like, what happened? Like, why'd you
Yeah,
do that? She's like, he says, I had to kill this crazy bitch, is what he says. I had to kill this
yeah.
crazy bitch. She fucking bit me. He's like, you bit my friend. He smacks her a couple times. She's screaming, like, get the fuck out, get out. He gets up.
So awkward. Just like an
Oh,
awkward,
he
the most
goes,
uncomfortable scene. Like,
yeah.
yeah,
God, and then you realize, like, so Mikey's talking. He's like,
they get into
what
a
the?
big fight afterwards.
He's like, you get all the girls. He's like, you're really good with girls, and you set me up. You knew that
Yeah,
would happen.
you did this to make me look bad or whatever.
He said, yeah. He essentially says you made me. I think he says like verbatim, you made me look like an idiot. Like you knew this would happen. You just wanted to show me that I couldn't get a girl. Make me
Yeah,
feel bad and all this stuff. He's like, I've been nothing but a friend to you. Um, I helped you through like when we were younger, but you're always. And then you realize you have at first the entire movie you're wondering why Mikey betrays his childhood friend, and then you kind of realize, especially like in this dialogue, right, where
yeah,
he's telling him, you always make fun of me, I'm the butt of every joke, and I introduced what was the crime boss's name?
Desnick or something.
Dresnick. Yeah, he said, I introduced you and Dresnick, and you guys make fun of me behind my back. He's like, you call me Echo because you say I repeat myself.
And he does. He repeats himself the whole movie, dude. In the scene,
God, this
yeah,
movie's so good.
yeah, because he does. It's something that I wrote down because it's like a tick Peter Falk does, like when when they're on the bus and he's like, or the beer is one part, but then when they're on the bus and Mickey's trying to get off, he's like, this isn't the stop. He goes, this isn't the movies. This isn't the movies. This isn't the movie. Like he keeps trying to tell Nikki that they're not at the movies or whatever.
It's incredible. And he's like, you call me Echo, you make fun of me. You do this all the time, right? He's like, you guys, he's like, and it's not even like and then, he's like, you're joking. He's like, and then he's like, I try and say hey to you. He said, I have to say hey to you 3 times because you won't even acknowledge me in front of your other friends. He's
Yeah,
like, and then I call you and you won't call me back. He's like, I'm sorry that I missed your call. He goes, "Well, but you don't," he's like, you don't call me all the time. He's like, well, after I call you constantly for like 3 months,
3 months. Yeah,
I don't think you're going to call me back. So I stopped calling. Right. And he gets upset. He's like, I leave messages. You don't ever respond.
yeah,
Like you cut me out. Right. And he's very much like, and then, I mean, even like, even then, like Mikey's like, So like Nicky has a lot of money because he stole this money, right?
Hmm.
And Mikey's less well off, and Mikey was going to pay him the $200 that he owes him. He's like, I owe
Yeah.
you $200, and then he's like, and then that's the only thing that Nicky can bring up, and Mikey's like, here, take it. He throws the money. He's like, take it. You're a sad excuse for a person.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah. He goes, "You're a piece of nothing."
you're a piece of nothing. Incredible.
Yeah.
What a fucking great
Incredible line.
movie. And,
Yeah.
and
Incredible line. Yeah.
I think this might be a 5 movie. I don't know. It's pretty perfect. But he's like,
It's pretty great. Yeah.
he throws the money, like you're nothing. Then, the thing that you've been seeing the entire time, Nicky acts childish, starts trying to fight him. Mikey's not going to fight him, He gets in the car, says, hey, like, I got into a fight, right? Like, he punched him. He's like, I got into a fight. He's down this way. He's like, I'm going to take you to the boss. You finally see the boss, right?
Yeah.
And they think that Nicky and Mikey are in cahoots. They think, because he's been leading him on the entire night, right? So, well, he thinks that. So he's like, I'll wait outside your house. It's a great line. He's like, you can't wait outside my house. We have our own patrol cars. We have our own police force. They patrol the neighborhood. And then Dresden's like,
think about the private police force.
He's like, God damn it. He's like, then he will drive around 2 blocks. Like, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to keep this guy. Like, I want him to like make sure you're caught with Nicky, right? So he goes home to his wife. He's looking out. He's like, hey, you need to go to bed. They kind of talk a little bit. She's like, I can't sleep. Nicky goes to his wife, his ex-wife sees his he's a complete piece of shit. Sees his child, is like, yeah, you can hold her. Is like, oh, I'm coming back for you, baby. Whatever, kissing her, stuff. At first, he's like very aggressive, like, let me the fuck in, like, I'm coming in, and I'm seeing, because she tries to get him to go away. But he goes in, confuses her. She kind of rejects him. He goes to Nellie again, right? So he goes to her. He's like, like, I love you. He's like, I love you, and all this stuff. And she says, oh, I know that you sent, like, those 2 guys that you said I was fresh with. I rejected them, and I know you sent them to try and prove I'm disloyal because, like, they told me.
Because when she runs Mikey and Nicky out of the apartment, he keeps mentioning these 2 guys about how she fucked him, and then later on, basically at the end when he comes back to her, she's like, I know that you told them to try to fuck me. What a piece of shit.
He's like, I rejected them, and he goes and he admits it. He's just kind of like is kind of flabbergasted at first, and then he's like, I don't know why, I'm just funny sometimes. I just do stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my god, like, what a fucking piece of shit, right? Like, you just think about
he's
that.
trying to play it off, and he's like, oh no, I didn't say that. He's like, I guess I just like to show off. That's his line.
Yeah, he's like, I think I like to show off. And then he goes, I don't know why I do some things sometimes, right? He just kind of is impulsive. He's very impulsive, right? The entire movie is proving that. But I guess to like culminate into the ending, right? He goes to like a, I don't know what, it's like a candy comic shop. It's like a common, it's like, I guess, it's a famous New York bodega, or whatever in the 70s.
Yeah, well, Nicky's just like, because Mikey goes back with Mikey hooks up with the hitman. He, like, there's some geography problems where I'm like, how did they get there that quickly? Because like they like get into a fight, and then Mikey happens upon the waiting hitman or whatever, and so they go looking for Nicky
together,
and they don't find him, but Nicky ends up.
They don't find him because he goes to like a place that they don't expect, which is his ex-wife's, right?
Yeah,
because he's, I mean, a huge colossal piece of shit.
Because
Then they go back.
him and his wife are separated. So because he mentions that his wife and kids are living with their mom or whatever at some point.
Yeah, and you see that, and then yeah, exactly. And so he goes. Let's see. So we're up to the point where, so Mikey's at home with his wife. He's like, I real. He's talking to her.
Yeah, he's talking to his wife.
Nicky was like, I don't know, I do funny things sometimes to Nelly. He goes to the corner store, buys, again, this is like an entire movie that's like showing how childish Nicky is. Nicky goes to the corner store. He's like, I'm buying a comic book for my nephew. And then the guy's like, sure, pal. Right? Like, yeah.
Oh, the guy pulls a gun on him when he first walks in.
Yeah. Cause he's like, cause he, everyone in this movie knows their type, right? It's kind of what the bus driver says to him. Like, or, yeah, the bus driver. He's like, I know your type, or no, the girl, the lady on the bus. It's like, I know your type. I'm not gonna yell at you because I know your type. So he goes, yeah, he gets, the guy's, he buys candy, buys a comic book, leaves. There's a great conversation with Mikey and his wife, where he's talking about, he's like, I was really sad because like, I loved my brother. And he's like, and I just realized, like, my father didn't really like me, but he really liked Nicky, like, as a kid.
Brother,
yeah, and his brother. And he's like, and I realized that, like, out of everyone in my life, the only people that knew my father and my brother is Nicky. Yeah. And she's like, wow, she says I envy him, which is, definitely don't envy him.
No, yeah.
And he's like, yeah, like, you need to go to bed. And she's like, I'm not tired. I told you. Nicky, so the end of the movie, Nicky goes to his house, starts banging on his door. Hey, he doesn't bang on his door.
Well, because Mikey, Nicky, Ned Beatty takes Mikey home, and he decides to like just circle the block, basically.
Well, he doesn't take him home first. He takes him home because Dresden or whatever. God, that's terrible. Dresnick, yeah. He tells him, he's like, you want me to watch? He's like, yes, I want you to watch. And that's when he does the whole, well, you can't circle the block. We have our own police force. Like, we have our own patrol cars. And he's like, he'll circle 2 blocks. Like, Jesus Christ. He's like, and then he literally says, I'm sorry you don't like me. He goes, oh, forget about it.
Yeah, he's like, because he's like, he's like, oh, I'm getting on your nerves. Oh, he literally tells him, he's like, you're getting on my nerves.
Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry you don't like me. I'm sorry I'm getting on your nerves. He goes, forget about it. So he's circling the block. Nicky comes up. He's like, knocks on the door. He's like, hey, like, Mikey, can I come in? He's like, Mike. He tells his wife to tell him he's not home. She's like, I'm not home. He's like, Ann, he goes, Ann, are you mad at me? It's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's an insane thing to say. Are you mad at me? And you can tell he's childish. He's eating candy. He's got comic book. He's like upset. Yeah. He's like, open the door, please. Like, and she's like, I'm sick. You need to go. It's fucking 5 a.m, too, right? So it's crazy.
Yeah. It's like break of dawn.
Yeah. So he's like, please open the door. He's like, Mikey. He starts banging on the door. Mikey, please let me in, Mikey. Yeah. He's going crazy. They push furniture up against the door. Oh, and then the hitman pulls up, shoots him, right? Shoots him a couple times. You see the blood splatter.
Yeah.
And you see the bullet holes go through the door, the blood splatters.
Yeah.
And then she's like,
because Nicky's like banging on Mikey's door, like, let me in. And like, at first he's trying to get his wife to be like, get him to leave. But at some point, Nicky realizes what's going on. And he's like, he brings back that thing about, he goes, I'm perforated. Yeah. About his ulcer or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, and he's just like, he's screaming Bloody Mary, like begging Mikey to let him in. And him and his wife are just like hiding,
Yeah, they have the furniture pushed up the door. They're like holding the line, and then eventually it gets to like where he goes, he gets shot, right? And then, dude, this movie's so fucking good. Yeah, and then his wife is like, I think you should go to bed.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the movie.
Or he tells his wife, he's like, go to bed.
She tells him, right? She tells him, she's like, I think it's time for you to go to bed.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And yeah, so they go to sleep. And no,
Oh,
that's just it. They just because they
no,
go
she
to
tells him.
bed.
She's like, I think it's time for you to go to bed. Like, I think you should go to bed. Oh, and then end. Oh my god, dude. Such a
It's
good
amazing,
movie.
right? It's a good movie, right?
So good. 5 stars, definitely.
Yeah, I'm glad you like that one. Like I said, Mikey and Nicky was more of my serious pick. California Split. It's a comedy, you know. Like I said, I think you'll like it more over time. But yeah, it's yeah, Mikey and Nicky. It's like I think it's like the fact that it's a female auteur, like it's because it's a very like damning portrayal of like male friendship, you know,
Yeah.
like like I said earlier, it's been described as like it's about like it's about like um being friends and loving like fucked up people basically, and loving them even though they're fucked up.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I can definitely see that. I do, like I said, I think the ending, I think like when Nikki gets shot, I think he really realizes kind of like the gravity of what happened, and he's like, well,
Yeah,
fuck, like, yeah,
no, yeah, he's just like he's like because he goes to visit his like separated wife, his wife or whatever, who he separated from, and yeah, it's just very like she hates him, and then all of a sudden she like loves him, right?
yeah.
Like
He's
she like
he's very charismatic, right? He's
yeah,
got a lot of like, I mean, he's jokey, he's a jokester, right?
because
But
at
I mean,
first she
like
just
that's
wants him to leave, and then eventually like eventually like at first she just wants him to leave, but then eventually she like starts kissing him and shit again.
yeah. I mean, and you can, but like honestly, so like Uncut Gems, you can
Yeah.
kind of see the parallels there. But like, it's one of those movies where you're like, holy shit, the ending. But also,
Yes.
like I said, there's no other way. Like, if this movie would have ended, right, and there
Yeah.
was there was no death of Nikki, you'd go, okay, he's going to die. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
the only way that the filmic like universe, the story could have ended, in my opinion, is if Nikki's heading down the path of he's
Mhm.
going to get killed. Like, and you see that throughout the entire movie. Like, it's anxious energy. He's got anxious energy because he knows he's going to die,
Yeah.
and he kind of says like, I don't know why I do things sometimes, right? Like, I just kind of do them. Consequences be damned, and you kind of,
Yeah.
he doesn't go to the airport, right? He doesn't do anything. Like, he's kind of hanging out. He's like a baby in the movie too. Like I said, he's very much like a
Oh, he's
childish.
very yeah, he's very infantile.
He's very infantile. Yeah, and you're just go, okay, that's
Which like that makes sense with the whole like it makes like the way he treats women make more sense because you're like, oh, he's just a baby who wants a mommy. Literally,
yeah.
like that's literally all he is.
Yeah, and everybody and everything is just like at his beck and call. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, I mean, literally, like, they kind of, they all, like, the entire universe to him revolves around him, right?
yeah,
Which is a very childlike, very childish thing,
yeah,
and mindset. And it's like, consequences be damned. I don't care who I hurt along the way, because like I said, like, there is kind of a love there that
oh for
Mikey has
sure,
for
yeah,
Nikki, because I mean, he gives him his gun. He gives, like, because the entire time we didn't even talk about the gun. They switch jackets, because Nikki doesn't trust Mikey, and they switch
yeah,
jackets, and he's like, well, here's my gun, right? And so Nikki has opportunities to kill him. I mean, he could kill him in the graveyard, right? But he doesn't.
yeah,
Because he still has the gun at that point. But he never. he never does it. The only thing like he does have this like affection for him, right? But like every time that
Yeah.
affection is like squashed completely because of Nicky, because like Nicky does it every time. Like I mean, he's childish, he
Yeah.
makes fun of Mikey. He isn't like you realize you go, oh, okay, he actually did set him up. He did make him look like an ass with his girlfriend, trying to get him to have sex with his
Exactly.
girlfriend, and yeah, I mean, it's just it's oh, this movie is so good. It's an incredible movie. It's a masterclass film. I really do believe that.
Yeah, no, and it's crazy because, like I said, when it was released in '76, it wasn't in the form that we watched. It was in like a fucked up studio cut because the story is that Elaine May hid a couple of very vital reels of film. So
Mhm.
like when they made their version, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah,
And it wasn't until like the '80s that they even released this cut, and then it wasn't even until 2019 that that they put it out on home
Criterion.
video. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was through
it's
Criterion. Yeah, so it's crazy because like there's so many people who just straight up haven't seen this movie because like I said, even people at the time wouldn't have seen this version of the movie. So it's a very like yeah, like I feel the same way you do. I wish more people would see this movie. It's like because there's clearly a very deep backstory and between Mikey and Nicky, and like their relationship has like a lot of levels, but they don't beat you over the head with it again. They just like they
everything's
they
everything's
dole it out a little bit at a time, you know?
everything's
Yeah.
inferred, and you can pick up on it. It doesn't dumb it down for the audience at all,
Mhm.
and everything's inferred. You can pick up on it. It's definitely. I mean, it's all like literally, it's all there. You don't have to like. It's not one of those
Yeah.
movies where like, and I'm going to show my ass a little bit like with regards to movies, but it's not one of those movies you have to kind of like look up on Wikipedia and be like, what did I just watch? Like
Mm.
you watch the movie, and the movie told you every single thing that you needed to know,
Yeah.
and it just like inferred a lot of stuff, and then it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't beat you over the head. The reveal isn't like, it's not like
Dun, dun, dun.
like
Yeah.
like Nikki's not like, Mikey, what, you set me up. Right, there's
So
never that
wait, you're
moment.
telling me you set me up? Yeah, exactly. Like,
There's never
wait,
that moment, camera pan, like look over, close up, like, I can't believe he set me up, like,
yeah.
damn you, like, it's it's a grown up movie for grown ups. It fucking rules, dude. It's such a good movie. Elaine May is confirmed official dudes rock.
Oh,
Like I
she
said,
gets it, dude. Because again, like as you said, like as much of a piece of shit as Nikki is, like Mikey still like loves him, sort of, but he also wants to kill him. And I think like
you get to
everyone can
bromance us.
relate.
That's what's
Yeah,
insane. Is she completely, like, as a writer, understands like the bromance, like especially the troubled bromance dynamic, which is like not understood by like many filmmakers, right? Which is incredible. I mean, like, dude, this movie's so good. Yeah, 5 stars. I changed my rating. I said 4.5 at the beginning. I'm changing it to 5. This movie's so good.
hell yeah. All right, well, uh, yeah, yeah. Lengthy discussion. I'm glad you liked it. Um, any final thoughts before we get to your picks for next week? Because that's the big finale. That's the big climax of every podcast. Is we build up the next picks to next week. Like I said, I'm glad you liked both of these movies. I'm glad you loved Mikey and Nicky. Like I said, I generally just want more people to see movies like this because, like I said, again, this is another movie that you wouldn't get today, and it's not. It like they literally just don't teach you how to make these movies anymore. You know what I mean? Because like if you go to school, if you read the books, they're all going to teach you how to make movies in a very specific like popcorn way, right?
Yeah,
Um. So, but with these movies, it's like again, it's more about like the exploration of like character and like the dualities that we all have, and like again, like most of our friend, like no one's perfect, right? So it would go to stand that like most of us have friends who are fucked up
Yeah.
and who are like we don't agree with everything they say, and they could even backstab us, but you still like again because at the end of Mikey and Nicky, like Mikey knows he's gonna kill Nicky, but or not kill him directly, but he's gonna have him killed. But again, because he knows he's this only person who has this knowledge of his intimate life, a life that doesn't exist anymore, which they kind of talk about like you know, one day like no one's gonna know you or your stories, like it's just not gonna mean anything.
Hmm.
And like Mikey's like, no, my wife loves it when I hear when I tell her my stories, you know, like it's he's very defensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's amazing. It's an amazing look at like fucked up relationships in general. Just loving a toxic person basically is what this movie's about. But yeah, no, I'm glad you liked it.
What
With that said, oh, what are you gonna say?
real quick before my picks, what was the star ranking that your star ranking?
Oh, I would say like maybe California Split's a 4.5, and this is a 5 for me for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, so you
Like I
like
said,
this
it's
one
a
better than
perfect.
California Split?
Yeah, I know. Like I said, this is the more serious film that I thought we would have a more, you know, substantial discussion over. California Split's more of just like a vibes movie. It's more of just like
Yeah.
I said, it's a comedy. Like it's not really what you would think of as a comedy, but it is lighthearted in some ways. Like it is, you said, it's more, and it's also just like a taste thing, and like I said, some people will like you see it and you're like, oh yeah, I just like living in this world. I like existing with these characters, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was this week. Tell us about next week.
Okay, so I have to preface this with saying I hope you and the viewers do not hate my picks. Um, I have to say I promise that I will steer clear of the just naming a director's movies, right? And I will do a
Sure.
actual like vibe double feature the next time I pick. But I do want that. I want that SEO, right? I really want that search engine optimization, right? And
Much
because
so, yeah.
because his new movie is out in theaters, I think we should revisit, because I know you've seen both of these. So I think we should revisit the complete filmography of Robert Edgers. So for the double feature, I want
Okay.
to do The Vivitch and The Lighthouse. So I really hope
Excellent.
that you don't
Excellent
hate those.
picks. No, those are excellent picks. Those are movies that I know a lot of people would love to hear us talk about. Robert Eggers and Ari Aster. I'm gonna very much deeply think about how I feel about them individually. I know we're not doing Ari Aster, we're doing our Robert Eggers, but they're kind of like, you know, they're kind of
Yes, they came up at the same time. Yeah, we'll
yeah.
discuss this on next week's pod. But those are my picks.
Okay,
Partly
that's really good. I'm stoked because yeah. Okay. No, I
partly
think
as partly SEO reasons, but the main part is I do want to rewatch those two movies. I haven't seen them since they came out. So
yeah.
there we go.
No, and I love Pattinson of Anya Taylor Joy. This gets me excited because like for my next pick, like I'm down to like two different ones, right? One's
Hmm.
like super embarrassing, and one is like auteur driven, and I think I'm gonna decide at the last minute. But man, yeah, I'm super excited to go back and watch The Witch, especially. Um, uh, yeah, I want to say this now before I go back and rewatch him because like my thoughts on Eggers now is like I like The Lighthouse. Again, I just want to say this now so we get it on record, so that like because next week if my opinion completely changes, the way
Yeah.
I feel about it today is like I like The Witch. Thought The Lighthouse was better. I only saw both of them once though, so
Perfect.
you have to watch a movie more than once to really get what's going on in it. So I'm super stoked because I feel like this will be really definitive. And I am gonna go see The Northman this week. So The Northman, I'm gonna see The Northman this week. So yeah, we can have next week will be Robert Eggers
Nice.
podcast. Edgar's casting.
Yeah, exactly. So look forward to that next week. Thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you.
listening. You know, it was a great double feature, my good sir. So
Oh yeah, no, thank you, dude. I just like I said, I hope we have fun. And I just hope you like again. I think both of us have the same goal, which is like we just don't want the other one to hate us for whatever we pick. You know, we just want to make sure we have a
right.
decent pick. Like don't yell at me. You know, but that being said, there are. I don't know about you, but I brainstormed some double features, and there are like times when I'm like, man, I want to show them something really bad, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, we'll get to that later. All right. So
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
everyone, thank you. Have a good
So
weekend.
see you guys next week.
Later.
Blinded by the light.